Hello and welcome to episode 376 of the 21st Century Work-Life podcast. My name is Pilar or T, and as regular listeners know, this is part of the Booknotes season, which I'm doing at the moment. Today is the 20th of November 2025, even though, of course, the nature of the content of this podcast is evergreen. We're talking about books and what I've highlighted in them and that I think is worth sharing with you. It's still important because the second half of the episode has my personal update, so I'm time-stamping it. All right, so today I am talking about The Art of Possibility, Transforming Professional and Personal Life by Rosamund Stone Zander and Benjamin Zander. And just to give you a little bit of background of the authors, because it's very relevant to the book and the context of the book. So Benjamin Zander was a conductor of the Boston Philharmonic, and he's also a teacher and a communicator, and he's written this with psychotherapist Rosamund Stone Zander. It's a beautiful book because it comes from an artist's point of view, and it comes from a teacher's point of view, a really real nurturer. And so I think that the lessons learned can be applied to our own practice and also, of course, how we interact with each other and the world. It is a practical book, but it's asking us to work on ourselves, not to work on others. So that's why I thought that's why I'm loving it, because I like reading things which have reflections about how people see the world differently or making sense of situations that maybe I wouldn't know how to approach. And it's also given me some ways of looking at the world that are worth revisiting. So I haven't finished the whole book yet. I think I'm about 56%, which is probably getting towards the end because it's a Kindle book. And I think it'll have lots of notes at the end. But I'm really enjoying it, so I thought I'd share it with you. So here we go. I'm going to share the quotes in the order in which they appear in the book. That's the easiest thing for me. So the first one, I love this one. I love my weeds as much as my unblossomed roses. What do you think of that? I have lots of weeds. I actually should look at that sentence and not love all my weeds because I have so many. And of course, by that, I'm meaning all the projects that surface when they're not wanted. For me, weeds also signifies things that I tried that didn't go well or didn't go the way I expected them, or bad experiences. And I love, though, the unblossomed roses because it gives me that sense of possibility. Unblossomed for me means something that has the potential to be beautiful. So I like that. I like the weeds, which are the things that you don't like, that haven't worked, but also those things that you're in love with because of the potential. And I quite like loving both because then, it's just a mindset thing, isn't it? Right, and then here's another one, and this is more about the experience of Benjamin Zander as conductor. And really he used to take this very nurturing approach to his musicians. And here he says something about what happens when and especially with him when he's conducting and it looks like somebody actually is not giving their all or is a little bit detached. The lesson I learned is that the player who looks least engaged may be the most committed member of the group. A cynic, after all, is a passionate person who does not want to be disappointed again. Makes me sad as well, I have to say, this sentence, because we come across a lot of those people, and especially in my experience as an outsider, that thing, nothing's really going to change, always comes from people who love what they're doing, who want to instigate change, but they've tried and they haven't got anywhere, and therefore, however they're trying, I have to say that a lot of the time there's always that spark, that small bit of optimism that says, maybe this time it will be different, which can be soul-destroying if you see it. But, of course, the optimist in me says, great, because then there is a chance. But I really like that as well, just on a different note, probably not the one that it was meant to, is the player who looks least engaged may be the most committed member of the group. I see that a lot. I've seen that a lot in training sessions when I've taught. I am sometimes one of these that I might be looking at you but not saying a lot, but I'm thinking, I'm absorbing. And I'm taking it back to my Pilates teaching practice where I've done some classes lately, and I'm still, for those of you who don't know me, I qualified only back in April. And I just teach a few hours a week. But now I have regular people in the class, and sometimes the group is not giving me anything because they are so in their own bodies, they are so in the practice. In a way, they've forgotten about me, as in they're just following me as the channel of the practice. I'll come back to this later. So it's worth remembering this, that sometimes we don't know how people are engaging with something until we either ask them or just wait. Sometimes it's none of our business how engaged they are. They just need to be where they are at the moment. And what matters is the overall result of what they're bringing to our team if we're working with others, or to their work if they're working solo. So anyway, I think enough of that. The lesson I learned is that the player who looks least engaged may be the most committed member of the group. And then a cynic, after all, is a passionate person who does not want to be disappointed again. Right, then it talks about this habit that it's very easy to fall into. And if it becomes a habit, it can be a bit dangerous, as in it's not great. And this is the habit of thinking you make no difference. And again, we can see this in organizations, how easily it can become a habit. We can also see it, I don't know about you, but I can definitely see it in a personal way. Sometimes it'll be more relevant than others, but I just like that. I never thought of it as a habit, and I can see how it can become one. And then let's remember that the name of the title of this book is The Art of Possibility. And this other quote says, "In the universe of possibility, you certainly can change people. They change as you speak." You may ask, who actually is doing the changing? And the answer is the relationship. Because in the arena of possibility, everything occurs in that context. Again, I think this is reframing context for us, as in, am I trying to change what you are doing? Am I trying to change myself? Yes, but in relationship to what, to whom? And I really like that the place of change is not in what you're doing, not in what I'm doing, but in that relationship, in how we are influencing each other, in how we are affecting each other. So again, I love that, seeing the place of change, the place of where change happens as the relationship. And as a writer, again, if you've been following the podcast or if you know me, you know that in the last year and a half I've been in that space that now I'm a writer. So my mind is there a lot. And I'm thinking that is wonderful as well, in trying to find the relationship between myself and the future reader, or actually with you, myself and the future podcaster. Again, no matter how much influence I want to have in the world, in whatever format, if the reader is not there, if there is no relationship, whatever shape that is, even if it's very one-sided in a lot of cases, if there is no relationship, if we're not both bringing something to the table, then nothing happens. All right, so you can see why this book, you can go quite deeply. So it's nice. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Even if it's not your kind of book, then hopefully some of the reflections might land well. Or if not, you can see how the authors are thinking about it. And what I'm thinking about them in reaction, because it's all about relationships, remember? All right, so there is this other one which, well, I think it resonates on two levels. And I'll tell you in a second. So it's a little bit longer. We keep looking so hard in life for the specific message, in inverted commas, and yet we are blinded to the fact that the message is all around us and within us all the time. We just have to stop demanding that it be on our terms or conditions, and instead open ourselves to the possibility that what we seek may be in front of us all the time. That speaks for itself, but the reason why it's resonating with me is that, again, if you've been following this podcast, you may know that I'm attending some singing lessons in City Lit in Holborn. It's a choir, It's a choir, but it's set up for us to learn. We're not performing. And we are singing at the moment Big Yellow Taxi. And there is a line which says, "Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone?" And I think this is very similar. It's about seeing what is happening around us and wanting things to happen always on our terms. And things might be happening, but they're happening in a slightly different way to how we expected, or they're having the opposite effect sometimes, or a different effect to what we expected. So I like that one. And then I'm coming back to an earlier thing I was saying about, as Pilates teacher, being a vehicle for the practice. And it's not about me, it's about things coming through me. And you will hear this a lot in artists reflecting on their work. And they've got a sentence that is about this. And they talk about something being exactly what you're doing when you perform. You are pointing to the beauty and artistry of the music. And this came in the context of a story about somebody who was very self-conscious about their playing and how they unlocked something by thinking they were a vehicle. So again, if you're trying something that's of a slightly, I was going to say artistic nature, but actually it's of a more uncomfortable nature. If you can frame it in a way that is not about you, it's about what you are transmitting to the world, then it might be more palatable. Because I have to say, I find it very difficult when I think that the pressure is on me. Because if it doesn't go well, or if it's very uncomfortable, I think there's something wrong with me. So this is not a getting up close of thinking of the responsibility or accountability that we have. But in some sense, in some cases, it's just easier and more humbling as well to think of something going through us. I mean, to be honest, I haven't thought about this very much, but sometimes it's there. So it's definitely something that I'm still thinking of. Do I use it? Do I not use it? To what extent do I agree with it? To what extent I don't? But it's certainly, even the fact that I brought it in when I was talking about the Pilates, it just takes the pressure away from you and removes your ego from the equation so that you can just get the work done, whatever that is, however artistic or not it is, however much it is about teaching others. But if you can remove that and think of yourself as a vehicle for whatever it is to come through you, then it might be helpful. Let me know. Pilar at virtualnotdistant.com, or indeed, as you shall hear in the second part of the episode, send me a message saying you listen and if there's anything you'd like to add. All right, I've got another quote here, which is quite fun. There is no such thing as bad weather, only inappropriate clothing. Right, now a little bit of a practical inspirational note from Zander. In the context of rehearsing with his orchestra, he says, I initiated a practice of putting a blank sheet of paper on every stand in each rehearsal. The players are invited to write down any observation or coaching for me that might enable me to empower them to play the music more beautifully. And the reason for this was that he realized the hierarchical gap between musicians and conductors and how the relationship is not equal. And so he suddenly realized that he didn't know how well he was doing. So he started to find again ways of opening up the conversation. And I think that this was a really beautiful way of doing that. Okay, there's a couple more here. The risk the music invites us to take becomes a joyous adventure only when we stretch beyond our known capacities, while gladly affirming that we may fail. Again, this is very specific and it's talking about art and throwing ourselves into it and becoming a better artist. But again, I think that sometimes if we know that things can go wrong and we approach things knowing they might go wrong, one, we're just more prepared. Two, if you really don't like risk, it helps you to see what the risks are and decide whether you want to throw yourself into something. But I like that, and I like that it's talking about a joyous adventure happening when we know that things might not go well. So I have to say that lately I'd rather not be uncomfortable. Because again, going back to the Pilates teaching, I'm still learning. And I am very aware that at any moment, like, the class can just go really badly. In the popular lingo, you hear a lot about being outside your comfort zone, how good it is for you. Well, it depends who you are. It depends on what stage of life you're at. And it is true that if we want to grow, which is the context, again, in which we usually hear these things like getting out of your comfort zone, we can't do what we've been doing all the time. I think there's a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I think it's about this. And then I have two for you, which are around the same thing. When our attention is primarily directed to how wrong things are, we lose our power to act effectively. Good and bad are categories we impose on the world. They are not of the world itself. Isn't that great? And isn't it true? What's good for you might be bad for me. So again, it's how we're viewing the world and how we decide to describe it. But I like this. When our attention is primarily directed to how wrong things are, we lose our power to act effectively. To be honest, I do both. Because I'm seeing it all the time. Because I always have to have an opinion, you know that. But I always look at it, oh, that's wrong. And now I've learned to say, oh, that's wrong. Okay, I'm not going to do anything about it. And it doesn't matter. And also, it's wrong for me, but they don't think there's anything wrong. It's just how I'm looking at the world. So it's taken me a few years to understand this, which is why this is resonating with me now. But it also goes even to simple things like, and this happened to me, of course, as a participant and as a teacher, when the class is quite empty. And someone will go, oh, where are the people? Why is no one here? And you go, well, does it matter? Some people love it because some people love empty classes. And actually, you do get a lot more attention. But also, it doesn't matter. What matters is who's here. And it always reminds me, I've had this for ages, thanks to the open space methodology, which has one of the rules of a conference, an event, a conversation. Whoever's here are the right people. It doesn't matter if someone else would have benefited from it. It doesn't matter if someone usually comes and they're not here today. It doesn't matter if we miss the presence of someone else. What's important is who is here today to do whatever it is we have to do. Finally, my last one is being with the way things are calls for an expansion of ourselves. We start from what is, not what should be. Again, a little bit more of the same, but I love how that is put. So I'll leave you with that. From The Art of Possibility, Transforming Professional and Personal Life by Benjamin Zander and Rosamund Stone Zander. Now, before we move on to my personal updates, I wanted to recommend a book and a newsletter. So the newsletter first is the one that's written by lovely Mark Kilby, who, if you've been listening to this show for a while, he's come on as a guest for ages. He's a very good friend. We've met once in person, but I've had many conversations, many asynchronous and real-time conversations online. And he's a very, very thoughtful practitioner, agile practitioner, but more important, a coach in all sorts of ways. And his newsletter, as well as other things, has career-focused advice. So if this is of help to you, and in fact, if you enjoyed the first part of this episode, you probably will enjoy his thinkings, his musings, and definitely his advice. And I will stick the link in the show notes, but you can look for it online. It's called Staying Human with Tech, and his name is Mark Kilby. And again, there's lots of personal reflections. If you like reading stories, which I have to say, the book I was talking about has loads of them, but Mark always brings a story, something has happened to him, something he's seen, and takes the learnings from that. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, then this is for you. And again, lots of reflections on basically on being a professional on looking after your career at whatever stage you are in the 21st century. And then the book I'd like to recommend, disclaimer, I haven't read it completely, but it's by Guy Michaels, who I've known for ages. And I always find it interesting. So Guy trained, we trained in the same drama school in the 90s. But we weren't in the same year. But then I worked a couple of times with him on some projects. And funnily enough, around the same time, both of us set up corporate training companies that used our ability to teach theatre to others and our ability to work as an ensemble and in all sorts of ways, our ability to work as an actor. We brought that all into our training. Him and his colleague and him, Guy, focused on presentation skills. Some of you know I went off and did more of the team dynamics, team building and leadership stuff. But Guy he's already got a book, but now he's got another book out, which is called Practical Presenting, 100 Actionable Tips, Master the Essential Skills from Preparation to Delivery for Impactful Public Speaking. Guy, I would go a step further and say mindset, because from what I've read, and remember that if you shop on Amazon, which I know not everyone does, but probably on most e-book platforms, you can look inside the book. In that way, you can look at the table of contents, you can read a few chapters. I recommend you do that. I always do that before buying a book, especially non-fiction. Not as much with fiction. Fiction, if I like the story. But part 1 of the book is Strategic Foundations for Impactful Presenting. And just some tips: define your core impact, understand your unique presenter assets. I love that. And when you go beyond presenting, understanding what you are unique at. And that's going to be the theme for a lot of what we hear about professional development in all kinds of industries, because we know of the technology and also because it feels like the world is exploding with people. And then craft your presenter's intention. That's tip 3 again. So, and tip 4, embrace your authentic self. So again, this is not the book we're talking about today, but I think actually it goes very well with the one I was talking about and with Mark's newsletter. So there, I've left you with lots of things today. So Practical Presenting by Guy Michaels. Right, now the part you've all been looking forward to, my personal updates. And if you don't, I'll see you at the next Booknotes. You are very welcome to continue with your day. But if you're staying with me, let's have a look at what I've got for you today. So I've got my list. So I want to say hello to Andrew and Mike from Blue Goat Books, because not only are they working with me to publish the book, All the World's a Workplace. I don't think they know what they're getting themselves into, but never mind. For me, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But at least Andrew listens to the show, and he sent me a note about how he is going to buy or read Because Internet, which is a book I recommended a few episodes ago. So do let us know how you get on, Andrew. If you want to share any of your insights with the listeners, great. If not, don't worry. I won't make you. And listeners, if you do read any of the books that I featured, let me know. Pilar at virtualnotdistant.com. That company is no longer trading, but the email address still works. So I'm sure you'll be hearing more from my experience with Andrew and Mike. It's the first time I'm working with a publisher. I've always published myself, so they are an independent publisher, and I'm really enjoying it. And then I've got 2 more things I thought worth sharing. One, of course, goes to my new experience of teaching Pilates. I've torched. That's probably what some people think I'm doing with the practice. I've taught before in all sorts of ways. I've taught movement before. So I'm very aware now of what I'm learning. And a couple of things, I went to the singing choir class that I was mentioning earlier, and we had a cover for one day. And it was really beautiful how she embraced the fact that she was different. She was fantastic, but also in the same line as the other choir director, which is always good. I think when I've covered for my teachers, actually, because I've learned the Pilates from them, I never do something that's very different to what people are used to, because if I'm coming in for one class, then I don't want them to be all the time like, what's she doing? I want them to feel relaxed enough that they know what I might be doing to be able to do the things themselves. And though, but style is different and we must not apologize for that. Maybe back of my mind I was doing that. I don't know. And let's never be afraid of bringing something new, because after all, we are new and it's a missed opportunity if they don't have any different insights or we correct differently. Or this is the thing, actually. What's happened to me with Pilates is as I've moved through different teachers, they all see different things in what I'm doing and they help. So all of that, it kind of needed someone to be in front of me, again, staring at me, literally at some points, to understand that's the experience, again, of a cover teacher and what you're getting as a student. So therefore, what I need to be bringing as a cover. And I saw, so we work with a male director, which when you're singing, of course, has a different voice. And when he's singing the female parts, sometimes it's difficult to hear yourself as a woman in a man's voice. And the sopranos have been struggling with some of the songs, and getting her to sing with them, which she did, unlocked something. It just unlocked it. She brought them up a lot, something that hasn't happened recently. Again, this is just what happens when you work with someone differently. Sometimes it clicks. It's not even about personality. It's about them doing something to your insides, in a way, to your work that just needed a little bit of unlocking, something different. So that is one which actually goes back to a lot of the themes of today and going back to Guy's book as well. It's like, embrace the fact that you are yourself, know what you bring to the table, and just be very aware. The other thing I wanted to share was an experience again that I had during teaching. I think it's the first time I've experienced cognitive overload in this way and that I've noticed it. So I teach 2 classes on Sunday morning. 9 o'clock is beginners and then 10:15 is general Pilates, which is all levels. And beginners, I find usually, I feel I'm quite comfortable. It's a small group. Now I know most people. I don't have to go too fast because it's beginners and my Pilates rhythm is slow. But on Monday morning, I had probably 3 real beginners, which means they've been doing the practice for a few months. Then I had someone who was quite experienced, but she'd come because she had an injury. And then I had someone who, classic, rushed in at 3 minutes past 9. And as they were rushing in, and I said, don't worry, just take your time, settle your mat. Yeah, I'll come to you in a second. And later when I was able to get to her, I said, have you done Pilates before? And she said, no. And I'm laughing because they are the ones that need more care, more attention. So I had 3 people I knew quite well and who are okay doing their thing. So I don't have to look after them as much. I can pay attention, but not look after them. I had someone who I was just conscious that she was more advanced. And again, that's fine, but I'm conscious of it. I wanted her to come back to the class. And then I had someone who didn't know anything. I also had 2 people on Zoom, and they were people that I know, so they know the practice, so that's okay, even if it's a beginner's class. So I don't have to be very conscious of them. But one of them was having internet problems. So I kept seeing her like taking her headset on and off, her Bluetooth headset. She kept coming to the screen and look at things. They had the cameras on. That was distracting, even though I was trying it not to. You could just see it in the corner of my eye. And then I had the other person on Zoom, so I was just checking that everything was okay with her, especially that there's nothing technologically going wrong. But I was also with the class. And when I finished that class, and one other thing that had happened is that the weather has changed recently. The heating was not working properly, so I was conscious of that. So there's just a few things going on. And that class finished, I was like, oh. And then I looked at, oh my God, now I have to go do this other class. And I just realized that my head was about to explode, which is fine. I just then did the warm-up and just used it to center myself as much as to center the newcomers. And then it was fine. I think it was fine because a lot of people enjoyed it and some new people said they really enjoyed it. So that's good. Phew. But again, when I got home, because also in that general class, I also had 2 people online. They were different people. I had someone who had done 1 Pilates class before, but whom I knew. So I knew her. So that's always better because I kind of know her. We'd stopped in the street a few times. We used to do Zumba together. Then I had someone who I'm looking after because she comes from my beginner's class. So I'm just making sure she's all right. And then a wide range of people. But it's a really good group and I'm very comfortable with them. So that was easy. But when I got home, I just thought my head was going to explode. All good. And what a fantastic learning experience, and one for my diary, because I am writing, I am recording every time I teach or if I have an experience which I can link to Pilates. I am recording that separately so I can write a book about it. All right. Well, thank you very, very much for listening. I would love to hear from you. And if you have anything you'd like to share with the listeners, or indeed, like Guy and Mark, if you are putting something out into the world and you just want me to mention it, I'm happy to do so. I have a very small but very dedicated audience, and it just might help to point people in some direction, at least to start to discover whether it's right for them. Well, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, enjoy.